Hello everyone and welcome to Hill Street. Today's story is The Girl in the Picture. If you end up enjoying this story, please leave a like. And if you enjoy hearing stories from me, please subscribe and become a resident of Hill Street and let me know how I'm doing in the comments. Now, let's get to this nightmare. My mother recently passed. I'm not sure what I feel. Regret, sure. Sadness, absolutely. But a part of me feels relieved. Not because I hated her, but I hated watching her in bed all day and night, never really talking. She whispered constantly to no one in her last days. Her thin lips barely moved as she stared at her dresser in front of the bed the whole time. I'm not sure what it's like to have dementia, but I decided that if I ever inherit her odds of getting it, I knew that it would be the day that I finally tried fentanyl. Either way, it would be far more merciful than what I watched for 43 days when I decided to move back to my old house and work from home there. Occasionally, after I finished my last Tier 2 meeting, I would step out to get some soup for her. She ate, but very listlessly took a moment to acknowledge the food. For some reason, her nurse refused to stay too long in the bedroom, and when she was in there, she'd always make a cross with her fingers before and after entering. I guess Brazil was big on Catholicism, since I think I learned more biblical quotes from her mumbling than when I went to Hebrew school. I was sorting through my mother's leftover belongings and packaging them to be sent away to my sister who was stuck in Sweden due to COVID. My friend Al was with me helping. Hey man, do you know where the tape is? This box of books needs to be packaged up. Al was mostly a work friend, but we vibed when it came to our love of horror movies. I pointed to the tape next to him. He was also a little unobservant. I walked over to my mother's bed and tried not to pay attention to the vague shape of her impression in the blankets and sheets. I picked up a pillow with a sunflower cover on it. Mom seemed to love that cover since she kept gently petting it like a pet. I sighed and shook my head. The dresser was still messy, so I went over there to sort and clean. I wondered why she stared at it so long. It was mostly just a mirror and a bunch of pictures and knickknacks on it. The dresser itself was from IKEA, so I didn't think my mom was that obsessed with efficient Swedish furniture that always seemed to have an extra screw. There was a picture that caught my eye. It didn't look like my mom. It was probably my grandma. She also had dementia, so odds are that it's also genetic. I hope that it was mostly through the female line, since I was a guy, which is a selfish thought, but watching Mom still haunted me. The picture made me laugh a little, since the little girl in it was smiling so brightly while holding a cat, who was posed with legs spread and the tail upward curved like a boner. Her lips seemed to wordlessly say weird soothing things, like you would to a child or a pet. Her eyes, however, were completely unmoving as they stared at the dresser. Dude, I gotta take a crap. Where's your restroom? Third door on the right. And use the fan and spray after, alright? We just had Taco Bell. The Crunchwrap Supreme is worth it. Or maybe not, depending on how long I'm in there. Ugh, just go. I groaned and looked at that picture. It had to be my grandma, since that sort of sepia tone on it had to be from a camera from before Mom's generation. And the chair she was sitting on was old. It was still in the living room too, and clearly smelled still of Scotchgard and cigarettes. Finally, I got the courage to start cleaning up the bed and throw the sheets in the washer. It still smelled like her, and somehow that odd hospital disinfectant. I took a moment to breathe it in before removing the last true physical trace of her. As the machine cleaned, I went back to the bedroom and looked at the picture again. The little girl was still smiling, and the cat still looked hilarious, but something made me feel unsettled. Maybe it was the sepia tone, or just the fact that I didn't recognize who this girl could be. Her face was too broad to be anyone from my mother's side, because every woman in the family had a very slim face with a signature chin. It couldn't be anyone from my dad's side because he was Filipino. And there was something else. The little girl's smile looked just a little bigger than when I last saw it. And did her eyes always look so straight at the camera like that? I could have sworn that they were just a little to the left. Who was that little girl? I went to the living room and saw the chair from the picture and dug for the box with photo albums. I started to flip through each one to see if the little girl was in any old family photos. Maybe she was a distant relative or family friend that drifted away as the years went on. Half the books were of me and my sister, or the whole family on vacation or at graduation. There was my sister's wedding pictures. I could make out who was drunk and who wasn't, since I was clearly drunk, and half the family kinda looked like me when I'm drunk. The other half were older pictures from both sides of my family. There was my dad riding a motorcycle scooter in Manila when he was young. There was my mom at a basketball game where they still had those weird short shorts for uniforms. No little girl. I got up and went to get the picture to examine it against the photo albums. I must have spent 15 minutes manically trying to see if there's any match in any of the pictures, and every time I glanced back at the little girl, I felt something increasingly off about it. Was her smile always that wide, or her face that blurry? Whatever it was, I felt very uneasy and almost on the verge of a panic attack for some reason. Feeling tired, I laid back in the same chair that the little girl was sitting in. I rubbed my eyes and dropped them into my lap. Who the hell was this little girl? And why was her picture on my mom's dresser? I think once she mentioned that grandma also had it, but she never explained where it came from or who it was of. Dude, come on, talk to me. What? I glanced up from the picture on the table. Elle was there, mouth open. Jesus, thank God. I thought you were like sleeping with your eyes open. I was only thinking. Sorry. How was the crap? Forget about the crap, man. That was a long 20 minutes. But that Crunchwrap Supreme still edges out as worth it. You've been staring at that picture and mumbling for like 10 minutes. I thought you were just thinking, but you didn't answer to crap, even when I yelled at you that I was messing around with your girlfriend. Not really, but you were scaring me there. 10 minutes? That was like only 2 minutes tops, since I'd only been sitting for like a chorus of like a White Stripes song. Yeah, it was really weird, man. You kept petting that pillow like it was a cat. I looked down and noticed that I had that sunflower pillow in my lap. When did I pick it up? I blinked at Elle and then looked at the picture. That little girl had an almost inhumanly wide smile, and her face seemed even blurrier. What the heck is going on?